So congratulations, you are making it to the next round, which means you are now being invited for your co-op board interview, right? So you've entered contract and put down your 10% deposit. You filled out the board application, got all your references in order, submitted your tax returns, all your financials, and now the board has reviewed that document and they've invited you for an interview. So this means that you are about 90% of the way there to now becoming a homeowner in New York City. The board interview means you've mostly passed everything. It means on paper, your finances look good. That's really what these boards probably care about the most. And now they just want you to come in, meet with them, okay? Up until COVID, all of these meetings were in person, right? So the boards typically have their monthly meeting. You would go in, wear something that's, formal or business casual, look sharp, put on your best, and come in for that interview. Now, typically, it's done like this over Zoom. I'm starting to see some boards come back and invite people in person, but a lot of the times you can expect to have a scheduled Zoom and you jump in, and that's just easier for everybody. Also seeing a lot of boards now meet over Zoom, which makes things easier for everybody. So starting to see some of the co-ops enter that 21st century, which is a good sign for us all. But back to the task at hand, the interview. What is it that you have to be prepared for? I would say big item we want to pay attention to is, and I know this seems obvious, but knowing what you actually submitted on the board application, being familiar with your own finances, understanding what it was that you made last year, knowing what your bonus income was for last year, if that's a factor in your debt to income ratio, and just being able to explain who your references were, where you went to school, things of that nature, the basics. But I wanted to jump in, and this is a document that I will provide to my clients when they are invited to a board interview. Again, you're almost there. Mostly everything is good. They just want to make sure that you're a mostly normal human being. So some of the tips that I'm providing, you don't want to provide any unsolicited conversation. You're just keeping it very cordial. If you're talking about the building, you don't want to start providing commentary about the paint color of the lobby or how you hated that rug. Odds are in favor. There's someone that you're speaking to handpicked that rug, and they may not take a liking to how you feel about it. So you're not really volunteering too much. You're there to answer their questions. Okay, like I mentioned, the finances, you want to just be familiar with how long you've been working at your current job, how much you made, how stable your position is if you've been doing it for a number of years, really resume 101. And then you want to get into items like, do you entertain a lot at home, right? A co-op wants to vet whether or not you're going to be creating disturbances to your neighbors. So you don't want to reveal, now's not the time to say, oh, by the way, I like to DJ on the side and throw big parties and have a lot of people over. That's okay here, right? That will probably result in your board rejection. Other items that they're going to probably talk about, whether it's a pied-à-terre building or not. At this point, you should be beyond vetted and know whether or not you're allowed to own a second home there. But you want to just have that T crossed and I dotted to know what type of building you're walking into. Okay, do you entertain frequently? What kind of parties do you have? Are you willing to contribute to the building? Right, so hopefully you are. Hopefully if it's a really small building and people are expected to pitch in, you're willing to do that, or at least let in the right maintenance people to address certain issues. Do you have a dog or a cat? At this point, all of that's been outlined in your board package. Okay, I have seen instances for the board interview where you're expected to bring your dog to the interview. Okay, there's actually a news story covering that some people might, give their pet a relaxer or something going into that meeting. Okay, not my recommendation. You want to be upfront about what your dog is like, but you hear all sorts of things as people prep their pets to meet the board. I would say this much though, if you do have a dog, hopefully it's a friendly one and gets along well with people. I know that some buildings don't permit pets at all. Others may not permit more aggressive breeds like bulldogs or Rottweilers, as an example. Stepping away from the pets, though, alterations to the apartment. Okay, you want to be familiar with the rules. Most of these buildings have alteration agreements in place, and they're expecting you to work with someone that's licensed. Okay, if you're cutting it really close on your post-closing liquidity, maybe you're planning to renovate in a couple years and make some upgrades, but I would probably downplay that work, okay, or at least make it not seem like you're doing a total overhaul from day one, because if a building and a board is looking at it, they're saying, oh, well, where's he going to get the $100,000 to make all those renovations? Okay, so that might stir up some questions that you don't want answered. Okay, so just understanding that you have to go through that proper protocol to do a renovation is super key. And do you know that 60 to 80% of the floors should be covered? All right, that is something you'll typically see in the building rules, but definitely reading through the house rules and understanding those requirements is important. As an example, that 60 to 80% rule isn't tried and true, but I'm sure if there was a lot of knocking around and someone below you complained, the expectation would be that you would follow that rule. So key takeaways here, definitely be familiar with the building's house rules. Obviously, you want to be compliant with them. Take another look through your board application and make sure you're just familiar with your own background and finances, just in case that comes up. And if you have pets, you want to definitely get them prepared and acclimated, maybe tire them out a bit before you go into that interview, just so that they're not going crazy in front of strangers if that's your pet's deal. So some things to think about. If you have any other questions or anything else come up ahead of your interview, feel free to reach out to me anytime, and happy to guide you through the process. All my contact information is below. Looking forward to it. Thanks.